guys. Welcome to the first podcast of the only Ultima Online Outlands podcast. We're calling it Inside Outlands. And our plan so far, just to kind of develop this thing as we go. Joining me today, I have my co-host, Nateryl.
Yeah, what's going on? Yeah, we you hit me up to do this, and it seems like a good idea. Max hype, so you talked me into it pretty easy. We'll see how this goes 6 months later if we're all still into it.
Yeah. I make no promises at this point, but I'm going to try to keep it regular. And as long as the community's wanting to hear more, I think I'll probably be excited to do it. Joining us today, we have Fenix. He's our guest speaker, kind of the heavy PvPer among us three. We can't speak to PvP. I haven't done it in 20 years very much, and Nate's fairly new to the game, so he's our PvP guy. Welcome, Fenix.
Hello.
Yeah, I kind of figured I would be the new player perspective. I played a little bit of UO in the past, but very, very minimal. And then Mindtrip, you're kind of our old vet that's been around forever. We'll try to hit the community when it's applicable to pull in people that can speak to a topic. Like if we're going to hit up faction warfare one week, we'll get a heavy faction warfare guy in. Or if we're going to talk like treasure hunting, we'll try to find someone that treasure hunts.
Yeah, there's a lot of different facets you could approach in that angle.
Get a couple dev interviews, keep things topical. You know, what's going big in the community, we'll try to talk about that and put out a weekly show, I think.
So if at a later date another podcast pops up, I know Owen and the devs had toyed around with the idea, but I haven't heard anything lately, so I don't know how that's going to go. But if we have competition, that's good. The more people in the community, the better. What we'll probably do if that happens is try to supplement each other. So if they're focusing on patch notes and things like that, you know, we'll go the other direction and kind of do the community thing while they do the professional thing on their end.
I think the community thing is a great idea, personally. I think if you guys can catch the feel of the community, people are always going to tune into that.
Yeah, well, that's definitely going to be our heavy focus. Nate and I are newer to this particular server than you, so as we're learning the game, we'll probably bring on experts in different subjects, such as, you know, maybe treasure hunting, fishing. We got PvP today.
You know, everyone wants to hear about taming, too.
Yeah, right. Taming.
I think this server, man, people want to hear about summoning. But what they did with the spirit stones. And
yeah, summoning is actually really strong here.
Maybe bring on Nate and I are currently in the guild Beard Brothers. Shout out to those guys. They're a pretty cool group.
Yeah, that's a good choice.
Papa Carl is, I would say, experiment with summoning and probably one of the preferred PvE builds on the game. So maybe we'll bring him in here one day or someone like that and, you know, talk about PvE as well.
Yeah, I think you could hit on a lot of the different experts. And some of them might be down. Some of them might be like, fuck you. You never know.
Yeah, and if you guys have any ideas for the game on the Discord, there's a section for ideas. Go ahead and hit us up. Let us know what you would like to hear. If you want to contribute to the podcast, let us know. We're always open to change our agenda or maybe episode 2 down the road, work something in.
Yeah, even if it doesn't fit the whatever show format we end up sticking to, we can always do a special episode with a different format maybe. If the devs actually do a podcast, I think a community-run podcast will feel different. So we'll still have a place out there, I think.
Yeah, if they're covering a lot of stuff, maybe we'll go from an hour to 40 minutes or something like that. We'll just play it as it goes.
Why don't we run through our history with UO? We could probably start with you, Fenix. What's kind of your background with the game?
Okay, so I started back, and I think I was 13 years old, which was either 1997 or 1998, and I had my best friend at the time was more of a nerd than I was, and one day he was like, my cousin plays this game, it's really cool, you should check it out, because we were playing StarCraft at the time. So I'm like, okay. So we check it out, and I got in the world, and I started running around, and I got killed by an ogre or something, and I was, at first I'm like, what the fuck is this? This is crazy. So then I go back and, there's people all over the place and there's all this shit going on. And I couldn't believe the depth of the game when I first started trying to figure out. I mean, I was such a noob that all this stuff was brand new to me and there was so much to learn. And I seen all these cool guys riding around doing cool shit. And I'm just stuck here with my little katana and a wooden shield trying to figure out life. And to me, that was like an overwhelming thought. I had never played a game that challenged me so much as far as progression in the game. And to me, that's worth a lot in MMOs historically. I like PvP and stuff like that, but at the end of the day, I really want whatever effort I put into the game to progress me further and to be able to consistently stay in that track of getting better. So that was on Chesapeake, and I sucked almost the whole time. Then over the years, I tried.
Was that your age, or like you're just being new to MMOs, or was it Ultimate itself?
Both, pretty much. I think. I mean, the only game I had played really on a PC up until that point was StarCraft. So I was in a whole new world, and there's all these macros and shit, and I'm like, oh god, I was overwhelmed. But then after that, I went to Siege for a while. I tried out a couple different places. Ended up on Hybrid for a while, like that. Then one of the guys from my guild on Hybrid, which was a big guild, dragged me on to IPY2. And when I hit IPY2, it was like a new experience for me because it dragged me right back to that initial feeling I used to have in the day of being, A, very vulnerable everywhere you went, B, having your efforts really mean something in the long run, whether that be resources or farming or whatever, C, having that constant feeling of like, there's more out here for me to find and do that's new and custom, but still had that old feel about it. And so that's what really, basically, I guess, was the plant that brought me here at this point, because that followed a line. Eventually, Luthien and Abigor and those guys took over that server code. It became UO Ancorp, which I played the first one not that seriously. But the second one we took pretty seriously. And then after that, I went to Relpor, which Luthien also had an original development contribution to. And then that basically landed us here.
Yeah, it sounds like you followed the direct line from these custom shards straight to Outlands.
Yeah, pretty much. After, I tried playing OSI, and I tried going back and back and back over the years, even after playing Hybrid and stuff like that. And even though I had all the artifacts and all the skills and all the scrolls and whatever I needed, it never felt right to me again. After, what I knew to be PvP and that feeling of just like being vulnerable. It didn't feel like there was anybody in the world that you could run into. Everybody's playing in Tremel. It was just, to me, it didn't have the same feel and it didn't do it for me. So I had to go back into the free shard community to find what I really wanted out of gaming.
Oh, you said Tremel. Is it Tremel or Trammel? I always think it's interesting people pronounce things different.
I don't know. I always pronounce it Trammel, but, there's no official.
I think it's probably Trammel.
Yeah, maybe.
I can run through my history real quick because mine is very quick.
Sorry if that was long-winded.
You played the game a lot longer than I did, for sure. It came out, 98, 97? And
I think it was technically 97, yeah.
Yeah, at that time I was playing MUDs, probably in AOL and CompuServe, and then I went to college in 2000. So before that I was in EverQuest. So I kind of missed UO in its heyday, never really playing it. So after college, it was on my to-do list to go check out, and I didn't do that until Relpor. So Relpor was my first UO experience, which has a lot of similarities to what Outlands is doing. Custom map, smaller map, more PvP oriented, hitting all the points I want in a sandbox. So I went there and played that for maybe a month. It was a lot of macroing. I had no idea what I was doing, and that old client is just awful. At least having no nostalgia for UO. And I left that and went to the official server for a little bit, maybe a month or two. But that's a lot of, if you play that now, it's a lot of items, getting the right gear. And it feels like a modern. Yeah, it's just not the same kind of experience. So I kind of fell off it. And then Mindtrip started talking about Outlands about a year ago. There's that development forum thread they had that kind of laid out what they're doing. And just like Real Poor, it starts ticking all those boxes. An in-game PvP focused, custom content, smaller map. But I still was skeptical because of the old client. So when I came back to try it in beta, when they announced the launch date, I used the Orion client, which kind of fixed most of my issues. No longer was it 12 FPS, but it was 144 FPS and running buttery smooth. And then the map is so cool.
Yeah.
There's life in it everywhere. It's the newbie dungeon's awesome. So that got me to stay. I think now I can play the older client, but when I first started, I needed that. I needed to kind of be eased into that 12 FPS macroing. I can play Steam and Razer just fine now, but I needed a week or two to onboard, I guess.
I think that's a great point too, and I think that that the Orion client itself, just the look and feel of it for a lot of these guys that are either coming back from a long time or coming for the first time and try that, makes it a lot livable for them, because I can see how the old client is off-putting to a lot of people that aren't used to it. I'm used to it, so it doesn't faze me. But I think you make a great point with the Orion client. I think it's done a lot for grabbing people and holding them.
Yeah, yes and no. Real quick before you get to Mindtrip, if the Orion client's really buggy, and that can turn people off too when they start to die and things are all black around you. So I would say try it, and if the bugs get you, just immediately switch to Razer or Steam. But it was a good way for me, anyways, to kind of ease myself into playing and settling back into the client. What about you, Mindtrip? How'd you get into UO?
Yeah, so I guess it must have been early '98. I walked into a game store and I seen the box, and I had no idea what an MMO was, or maybe an RPG, but RPGs in my mind were totally different, because most of the RPGs in the early days were like first person, and I didn't really know what to expect, but the salesman was like, "Man, this is awesome, you gotta try it." And I was like, "All right, whatever." I think it was like $30. So I picked it up and went to the brick graveyard, killed a few skeletons, and like some dude was like helping me out, and man, I just never really had a social game before, and I was immediately hooked. And, after that was on Atlantic, official OSI server. I must have played like a year there, started a guild. We had an NIPK guild at one point. Once it shrunk, it's harder to run NIPK with a small amount of players, so we turned to PKs. The first idea is we're going to help the community, but you get to the point where you kind of get bored and want to try new stuff, and we wanted the challenge of being in PK, so we tried that. So, maybe a year later, I had millions of gold, and we had bought like a big guild house. I think it was like a 2-story plaster or something, and man, it was just like the crazy stuff that went on back in the old days. It really hooked you in. It was really the Wild West, because the developers, they didn't really, they weren't really proactive in fixing bugs and exploits. They waited till it happened. They slapped you on the wrist for doing that exploit. Then they fixed it. So we knew unless we were doing something really bad, like duping millions of gold, they weren't going to do anything to us. So we tried every exploit in the game. It was fun. Maybe I'll share one of those stories later. So my second year in, I became a counselor on Chesapeake. I was Counselor Maelstrom, and actually worked for a guy named Senior Counselor Mindtrip. And my name is kind of in his honor, because after they shut down the counselor program, I never seen him again. But he was a really cool guy. I was in the Marine Corps, I got deployed overseas, kind of went to EverQuest after that, and didn't go back to Ultima for a long time. Got into the private servers. I think I tried Forever and Renaissance, the Second Age.
It sounds like you stuck to the private shards that tried to stick to or recreate old ages of UO.
Renaissance. Sounds like mostly Renaissance.
Yeah. I wanted everything before item insurance for sure. I don't know. Those were all really good servers. It just felt like the damn world was so big you wouldn't run into anybody. So it didn't feel like an MMO. And one thing that drew me to Outlands was the half-size map, all the new great ideas. We have some new players that have no idea, but almost everything in this game has been changed, and it's pretty refreshing to come in and be able to use these skills that had very limited or no use before. Almost every skill in the game gives you a little bonus to PvE damage, or even a smaller amount of PvP damage. So all skills can be somewhat useful at least. So yeah, that's what drew me here, and I guess I've been hanging out with Nate a couple of years now. He's been podcasting for about 10 years, or actually probably longer than that. So he's kind of my mentor. This is my first podcast that I started my own. It was my idea. Nate was kind of the brains behind the tech and, structure, stuff like that. So he's going to help me out, and we'll get several guests on here and maybe some developers. And yeah, that's about it for me.
Let's see. We could go over some news, or we could utilize Fenix and pick his PvP brain, whichever one you want to do, Mindtrip.
Yeah, let's hit the news up real quick. You want to start since you actually caught the Twitch AMA?
Anyone who hasn't watched it and you've got 2 hours to kill, Owen and Clicks CLX, I think, in the background they had.
I think it was Expo.
He was running around with the Orion client. So if you haven't checked the Orion client out, that's one way to do it, is watch that Twitch stream the whole time he's running across the map in the Orion client.
It was a really good AMA, I feel like, too. They went over a lot of stuff that's worthy of watching.
Yeah, you've got that. You've got the Sandbox podcast, not my other podcast. Mindtrip was on that. We had Quint, we had Owen. It's about an hour and a half long. There's some overlap in the AMA and that. I think there's probably more overall info in the AMA, but the podcast is kind of a deep dive with Owen, which is kind of cool. You get to learn more about him and what made him work on this map for 8,000 hours.
Yeah, I felt like it was a really good interview.
Yes, the AMA was good though. They answered something like 30 questions from the community. Kind of went over everything.
Yeah, I felt like they went over a lot.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time remembering anything that we didn't really know before he went in there. It talked a little bit about what they're going to do in the future. Maybe they may bring back samurai and necromancy in some form. I thought that was interesting because I know that's in live, but most free shards don't have that, especially the stuff that does second age, like this shard's doing. And the other bit of news we had is the patch notes. There's Luthus, every time he puts out a patch note, just a long ass list of stuff he's changed. I don't know where that guy gets the time to
I don't even know, man. It's superhuman.
This one though, I think one cool thing is begging. If you took begging before, it seemed like that might be something you would put on an alt. Like you would go around, beg for all your crew members for the ship part of the game. But now you may want to have that on your main pirate build because there's some bonuses to your crew members. You kind of like do an AoE beg on your ship, and your crew members now get a wrestling bonus and a combat, like a damage bonus. So it might be good for someone that's running around the ship pirating. They put in a fame and karma system. Was that in before? Did you guys?
Yeah, we have fame and karma. I heard it's a little different now. Used to be like when you hit Dreadlord, I think, or Illustrious Lord, the name would be above your head, and it's not that way on the server. I imagine Owen had his reason for doing that. I don't know if you're familiar with that, Fenix.
I think if anything, it probably boils down to screen spam. People are going to have titles, guilds above their heads, faction titles. It could get out of hand. I mean, when I was on UO Ancorp, there was a system that Luthus implemented about, I don't know, pretty far through the life of the server. But basically, to make a long story short, you could pay a bunch of money in a certain town to buy these little lottery tickets, which would affect your influence on that town. And if you were the biggest influencer, you would get this title. It was usually the merchant of, whatever. Most of them were short, but I was the one for Buccaneers Den, and dude, I had a fucking massive paragraph above my head after you considered everything that was on the screen. So it was kind of like a journal eater. I don't know if that's, and it, it can block people's clicking and stuff like that too. Sometimes I don't know if that's where his mindset was, but I wouldn't doubt it if it was.
Yeah.
I'm trying to skim through these show notes now, or the patch notes. If there's anything else big worth talking about, it's a lot of stuff though.
Yeah, you could really go ham on all the different rules and stuff.
I know the plant system is in because that wasn't done, so it looks like we're getting that at launch. Do we have horse breeding yet? Is that in the game?
I believe so. I just don't know if anybody's had the chance to test it because housing hasn't been in for very long, and somebody may have and just not posted anything about it.
Yeah.
I don't know how popular of a system it's going to be. I'm sure tamers and shit will do it though.
Yeah, I was wondering exactly how it's going to work. Like, if you need a particular type of house with I noticed like some of those big compounds have like fences around them, like you would have like a little farm
little
inside.
Stalls. Yeah,
I don't know what's going to be required.
Here's a bit of interesting thing from the patch notes. The shrine and how those work are tweaked a little bit. So it sounds like when you finish those shrines, which are going to for sure have PvP around them, right? The rewards will go straight to your character if you're within 30 tiles, and if you're away from it, it'll go to the boss, and you'll have to come in and loot it. So there's probably opportunity to get the loot from other players as they finish it too.
Swoop in.
Yeah. I think one good tactic could be to swoop them out or swoop in, kill them, and when they come back in and try to get it from the boss 10 minutes later, you can kill them again.
Well, that's always an age-old tactic, even when it comes down to bosses or mini-bosses. Any sequential spawn where somebody's going to have to work through, X amount of waves or, do a significant amount of damage over time to one single creature. People are always going to scout you. They're always going to come at the last second and undo all your effort. They don't care if they have to go gray looting this corpse in a dungeon. There's nobody around to kill them, and they're already red.
Yeah, this will be interesting, especially since it involves so much PvE and challenging PvE at that. Like, this stuff's not easy to do.
No.
It's not a capture the flag territory type of thing. You have to sit here and fight waves of stuff off. And the rewards seem like they're worth it.
Oh yeah, they definitely are. If you go all the way through a boss and you finish it, you're gonna reap some serious rewards. It's just how contended are they gonna be? That's the thing I would worry a lot of PvEers are gonna get burnt out on, is that they're gonna waste all this effort, all these resources, taking a boss down 10% or whatever the PK guild decides to come in at, and they're gonna lose that all and then rage quit.
Yeah, this to me sounds more like a PvP event thing than a PvE. Even though there's a lot of mob fighting, the only way you're going to walk away with that loot is if you're ready for the PvP that comes.
Yeah, you got to defend yourself to some degree.
So before, when we were doing champ spawns is, the similar idea. It's just maybe on a grander scale. But anyway, when we were doing champ spawns, if we actually wanted to walk away with those power scrolls that would drop, we would hire mercenaries to form a perimeter, intercept PKs, and pay them well, because that was really the only way you were guaranteed to walk away with some loot.
Well, on the flip side of that coin, when I was on Chesapeake towards the end, I joined a guild that was called Champs that had, at any given time, about 50 fucking PKs on. So, I don't know how you stop 50 PKs unless you have...
Oh, no. I'm talking about small groups.
And we would just roll into these champ spawns. We had a bunch of scouts, too, and the scout would just post something, and I forget what it was at the time, maybe IRC or fucking something like that. And then we would all roll in at the same time in Ventrilo and just make a bloody mess, take everything, and leave. It was like taking candy from a baby. It was the ultimate Zerg thing. So that, I think, has the potential to occur here. There's a couple guilds that are big enough. There are probably going to be some PK Zergs. So it's just something, and they're going to be scouting too. It's not something you just take on willy-nilly running around with all those PKs when you don't know what you're walking into. So a lot of times it's a calculated decision to move in on these people that have spent all this time and effort so that you can just take the least time and effort and take all their scraps.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, and this Outland server, at least to me, seems like it's a getting back together of the gang for Ultima Online. As in, it's drawing interest from everyone, from all sorts of
Yeah,
shards.
I
And in the
recognize a
past.
lot of names.
So this is going to be big, and this may recreate, especially with a smaller map, exactly that feeling you had playing this thing back in 99, 98.
Yep, I agree with that.
This could be some wild ass territory,
So
especially around these type of events.
one thing that's different from those old champ spawns was Owen's actually put, or Owen and Luthien have actually put way more things in the game, like the shrines and stuff. So there might be more going on simultaneously. So someone just slips through the cracks of the PKs. I mean, we'll just have to wait and see how it plays out.
You'd be surprised how resourceful some scouts could be, I think.
Yeah, I might be. Like I said, it's been a long time since I really PvP'd.
Oh, this guy knows. Yeah, champs. Woo.
People surprise you. There's always someone out there putting in more hard work than you do.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
How many players are we at right now for this stress test? You guys know?
I'm not sure.
I think I saw something about 600, but I don't know if that was accurate. I think it was just like a...
Yeah, well, they've not done their job yet because the server's still up, right? I just tabbed over and I'm still in the game.
Well, I mean,
Yeah, I'm still fine.
ultimately, I guess you want it to hold at least 600 because that's about how many Discord users we have. Plus, if you said 3 clients each, I mean, who knows the maximum we might have logged on one day.
I bet you this weekend we have over 1,000 at one time,
Yeah.
at least at some point.
Yeah, I think so.
Good thing is, Run UO, and I know that he's changed it a lot. It's pretty stable. It's been running these servers for 10 years now, or however long. So we should be okay. I don't think we'll have any kind of crazy server stability, but I guess we'll see what happens this weekend. As long as we get in there and play, I think I can deal with some lag, some disconnects. Hopefully, we can actually get in there and make some progress on our guys.
Yeah, the main thing that I would really be worried about with a launch, because I've been through it in the past with Ancorp, and I think probably a couple others too, is when you launch and you're a threat to other people in the community. I'm not going to name any names here, but when you launch and you're a threat to some of these other shards, to be honest, I don't even really know who it is. Could be salty players from 5-10 years ago, who knows. But you definitely run the risk of something with the size of this project. People are going to try and DDoS you. So I think that these guys have actually done a substantial job in trying to plan for that, because both of them have seen it occur firsthand before and how much it can do to a server population. So I think that people should feel relatively secure with the fact that we're probably not going to be having a lot of disconnections based on attacks like that. You know, it's happened a few times during the beta where it was pretty strong and it caused some crashes, but I think they addressed it. And I think they've definitely got their finger on top of it for the most part. And
yeah, the DDoS thing is good. It's going to come. They said they've got the best they can put up, the best defense they can do with the cost they can afford it, and the next level of protection is
yeah, it's like ridiculous.
A substantial increase in money. So, hopefully it's good enough, and it probably won't be sustained. They'll try to affect the launch, and then we should be back to business in a.
Well, I've seen it be sustained before, but I don't think they had exactly the level of protection that we do, so it would probably take a lot more effort.
Yeah, hopefully. I really can't play that much until Monday, so maybe if there's any kind of issues, maybe I'll miss it by the time I get in and I'm able to play for multiple hours at a time. But the last bit of news, they put in a multi-client rule change with a strong emphasis that you can't use multi-clients in PvP, and it's strictly forbidden. And it will result in all of your accounts being banned. Because you're allowed 3 clients, and you're allowed to have them on all at the same time. You're allowed to have them in all of PvE and gathering, as long as you're at the client and you can answer their CAPTCHA. So I guess if you're targeting PvP, though, you better drop 2 of them and only fight with one of them.
Yeah, pretty much. It's kind of, to me, it seems like a tricky territory, in all honesty. And I've been trying to over the past couple months, or however long since they made that change, trying to figure out exactly how you would avoid that from a PvE scenario. So let me give you a scenario and tell me what you think. Let's say you've got your 3-box and something, which I don't usually 3-box PvE, but people love to do it. They get their scripts and they just face shit and move on. It's good DPS, I get it. But you're very vulnerable when you do that. So let's say a group of PKs comes, ganks your first guy. He dies. If you take one of the other characters and try to get away and they come for you, are you still engaged in PvP? Can you even fight back at that point?
That's a good question. I think you can only, I don't know. I'm assuming if you're 3-boxing something, you better stop playing 2 accounts and focus on one.
Yeah, that would be my advice. Just leave 2 hanging, and whichever one you got the best loot on, fucking run.
But now if one goes down, I don't see why you couldn't tab over or look at the other client and play him out. I don't know exactly.
That would make sense to me, but
the devs aren't dicks. I think they might take it on a case by case basis if you were being defensive and not the person with 3 accounts killing the same people over and over.
So what Storm A just said, the rules are clarified, and you can 3-box PVM. You just can't go seeking PvP.
Right.
So I don't know how far that goes either. So like if you have a script that could instantly jib with 3 archers, some guy coming at you.
So you can 3-box and defend.
He said seeking is the key word. So as long as you're not instigating the scenario, I suppose you're okay.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. And that's kind of how other games treat it. So that makes more sense. Actually having to drop 2 of your guys and focus on one client felt kind of weird and artificial. So that makes more sense.
Yeah.
I would still say on one hand, though, I can see an angle for some kind of abuse or griefing just by luring monsters onto people and instigating some type of interaction. I would say that the way to go in that scenario would just be to run away on your 3 accounts, but the guy can keep coming back and fucking with you on a character with 100 hiding, 100 stealth.
We're going to have lots of weird griefing on this server, especially with the different stats and how they adjust things for monsters and PvP.
Yeah.
And I mean, you may have one strategy just be where you come in and you unstealth, engage them in PvP just to have them die on something. Because they'll immediately lower all their stats, right? From their PVM bonuses to the PvP bonuses, which could be all it takes to have their health dip.
That was a point that I brought up in the past, and their answer to me was basically they don't think it's going to be a viable way to grief people just to drop their PvE bonuses while they're PvEing. I guess their thought is that if all you're doing is going over there to attack somebody and then go back and hide, go gray, go back, attack somebody, hide, and then they lose their bonus, it's not a big deal. But to me, I don't know. I see a lot of avenues for people that are just going to be cheeky fucks running around on stealthers trying to do exactly that.
Yeah.
I've seen everything as far as griefing goes over the years, so nothing surprises me. And I think about all of the things I've seen in the past, and I'm like, I don't know. I see some avenue for this to be kind of toxic. But I don't know what the fix for it is, really, so...
Yeah, I'm not a developer. I don't have an answer for either. I guess we'll see in action how all this plays out. I mean, I like how they've split it up because it lets the PVM community actually get meaningful bonuses and enjoy content in a new and different way, and they don't mess with the balance of PvP. It'll be interesting to see how when those 2 worlds meet, what actually goes down.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that some of these PvE quote-unquote only skills actually will still give you a PvP bonus. It's not exactly great for your return on the 100 skill points, but if you want to do this thing, you can take 2 of those PvE skills and go up 20% in damage. Granted, you're going to get that out of just anatomy or just tactics or whatever, but you can do what you want and still kind of have a little bit of extra viability if you do get attacked, let's say, while you're trying to kill monsters.
Well, there's a cap too for how much damage bonus you can get in PvP, right?
I think it's 20%. So between whatever skills you have that add that extra bonus, that's that calculation based on your skill. I think the max that you can go is 20% bonus from those, whatever,
I
5
don't
skills.
think that cap is there for PvE. If it is, it's much higher. So you can really load up
Yeah.
camping and anatomy.
I'm not sure about that. I don't think there is one for PvE, but I haven't tested PvE enough to really.
Yeah, I had wondered about that because there's so many skills that add damage. If you tried to stack all of them, you would just have so much in your build. You have to cut stuff out, so you could stack a lot of damage.
I think it's fine for that kind of build would be fine for PvE, but the second you get a PvP,
Yeah, you're going to be a
hit your
glass
cap.
cannon.
Yeah, it is a good for anyone starting out on Saturday though. Don't drop anything. Like level up camping, turn on your tracking, get those bonuses while you can because you hit 50 really quick.
Well, even just with camping too, it's gonna increase the amount people can carry too. So how long it's gonna be before you have to either recall, run back to town, whatever you got to do, you can fill up more as long as you have more camping skill.
Yeah, camping's like I never would have thought I was initially going to put camping on my miner, but imagine how much ore I can carry with that dude.
Right, dude. You're like a pack horse, pretty much. Mini pack horse.
Get a little house next to the mountain, no problem. Just carrying it back and forth, like sprinting back and forth. So we'll need a pack horse so much.
Let's roll this right into our launch plans, or at least what you're willing to share. You've got closely guarded secrets, sure, keep them. But if you have any pointers or maybe kind of what you're going to do Saturday and Sunday. I don't know what you're willing to say, Fenix. Do you have any?
You can be vague.
Yeah, I can be vague. So basically, I have a big guild, and we're all trying to focus on a few things. My thing is I like to influence markets that I can have control over. To me, in the past, that's mostly been either resources, premium currency, like Dono coins, or on Relport, it was platinum. Things that have kind of a niche market. I guess resources don't really fall into that category, and I hardly ever fuck with buying regs. But things that are gatherable, that you can control or rate at which people that are going to be your competition are gathering them, and also help your people to further their agenda that helps the guild in the long run. So a lot of what our launch plans are going to be focused around is basically that. I think that I'm probably between going into dungeons and stuff once in a while and checking to see if I can score some gold off some noob in the front. I'm mostly probably going to be out in the woods looking for lumberjackers and miners and trying to feed that right into the guild crafters. I mean, I think that's probably a pretty obvious plan. Obviously, a lot of those crafters out there are going to be mine too, so it's going to be somewhat on me if they have an issue to come and address it, or at least distract the person that comes to fuck with them. And I think that a lot of it's a kind of a resource race for us, which is probably an obvious thing for, I think, a lot of other guilds. I think maybe we'll take on a little different approach to it because we'll actually go out and kill the competition, whereas a lot of other people would just try and race or find some angle. I don't know what my crafters' angles even are because I trust them and that's their thing. Not to mention I wouldn't share it if I did know. And then basically my goal as a pirate is to get to sea. Now, I'm not going to, and a lot of the guys in our guild want to too. There's one island with a dungeon specifically that I'm not going to name that's only reachable by boat at first. So somebody's going to have to get there first. And I think a lot of us are going to be archers or macers as well off launch. So really, I think we're more focused on carp at first than smithing. But we do have people addressing both. And both are going to be probably equally as important to us going through the launch. And then, yeah, once we get our head out of the water and I can amass enough money to start a mage, I'm just going to start an archer mage and running through dungeons and wreaking havoc. That's basically the plan. I'll be at sea, too. So I don't suggest going out to the ocean, which is smaller here than it has been in the past. and more dangerous. There's a lot of these NPC ships will chase you down. So if you go out to sea and you're not ready to defend yourself to some degree, I would just say I would be very careful and have, some kind of backdoor plan where, you can get out safely, because if you lose your ship, everything that you looted and everything, it's going to be devastating for some people.
It's a lot of work to get that first ship. 1,500 wood, 150 iron, 150 cloth, and then I forget if it needed any gold. So I guess the resource cost for that initially isn't that high.
It was the carpentry skill, right?
It's a carpentry. It's a big deal. 85 carpentry, which is it's a lot. It's 80 hours something to hit 100. So that's probably 50, 60 hours of harvesting or crafting.
It's a lot of both.
Yeah.
But if you think about it too, on launch, there's going to be, I foresee, at least on launch, macing being the most popular weapon skill for people that are going to be trying to either PvP or get away from PvP at the same time. You're going to force people to have red pots, and a lot of times on launch, these noobs don't carry red pots, and it just makes it an easy fight.
Yeah, I'm taking notes right now because I have no idea what I'm doing.
Also, I think archery is really, really strong here, and it's more of kind of like the luxury weapon skill, because you need to have ammo, you need to have boards to make that ammo and shit, so it costs you more, but it also has a lot of strengths too, both in PvP and in PvE. So I think there's going to be a high demand for things like staves and bows when it launches too, so you can kind of turn a profit doing that menial shit while you're still working towards that ultimate goal, just selling exceptional shit to people who really need it. We have some, and I'm not going to discuss locations, but we have some housing spots that we've picked out, and we have some ideas where we'd like to land, vendor houses and then PvP houses and, whatever. So that's basically, I think, the whole entirety of what I'm willing to give away on launch.
Yeah. No, you got way more plan than me and Mindtrip do. I think my plan is roll a Dexter, probably take peacemaking. That seemed pretty easy and pretty powerful early on. Have fun, make some money, and then I don't know where I go from there. I may make a archer. I don't really know.
Well, you got to feel it out, right? You got to figure out. I mean, none of us really probably know everything about the shard, save maybe a few people. So over time, you learn more, and then you go, oh, you know what? I saw this guy do this in a dungeon. It looked really fucking cool. I'm going to go for it, and I'm going to spend whatever resources it's going to take me to get.
I think I saw that faction warfare, you don't lose gear. Is that right? Or there's something about faction warfare that made it easier to get into. So
That's a good question. I don't know.
I may gateway myself into PvP that way. Because the thing is, I'm competing against guys that have been doing it for 20 years or on multiple shards. And then, here I've got 1 month in Railpoor to leverage here. So I've got a lot to overcome to PvP here. So it'll probably initially be PvE, and then I'll probably try to get into some faction warfare. And then I think I may roll a full-on bard after my initial Dexter bard, actually get discordance and stuff like that.
So,
and me and Mindtrip, we're trying to get a house. So I don't know how.
Oh, everybody's trying to get a house.
Yeah, I don't know how fast me and him can hit 50K.
Yeah. I mean, you guys are in a big guild though too. So, I mean, at the end of the day, I'm sure your guild has plans to get a guild house. Worst comes to worst, you always have some place to go.
Yeah, we'll be helping them get their house first, and that'll probably go up, I'm sure, day 2 or whatever. It'll be
yeah.
fun.
You have some PvE monsters in that guild.
We've figured we can roll out a house in 6 hours for have a vendor house to start, probably a small one, and then do the guild house next.
Yeah, before we work on any of our own stuff, it'll be that first. So our personal house probably won't go up until a week later. Something like that.
So I didn't really mention earlier, but I have a wife and 2 kids, 3 dogs. I commute 3 hours a day. So my job allows me to, get in Discord at work and stuff like that. So managing a podcast, I can do some in my free time at work or whatever, but actual playtime is kind of hard for me. So I usually play after the kids go to bed. I might get an hour or two in a night, more on the weekends. When the kids are awake, the only thing I would really do is stuff that doesn't take a whole lot of attention. So my goal is to get a house near some mountains and do some mining when the kids are awake, and then maybe get into some blacksmithing the house up, and enough ingots stockpiled to at least knock out like 10,000 at a time. I think I calculated I'm going to need to run 3 miners and get like 70,000 ingots each or something. It's kind of ridiculous, but
You'll be that miner lumberjacker that Fenix kills day 1, day 2.
Yeah, I think that the number that I've heard is, I feel like substantially less than that, but I don't remember the exact number, so
I'm sorry. I think I'm quoting the gold, not the ingot. So you would probably divide that by like 3 or 4. But anyway, it's still going to be a lot.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, just the effort it's going to take to be out there surviving amidst 1,000+ people trying to rip your head off.
I want like 100,000 gold cushion before I get into PvP, just so I can stock up 20 sets of armor and regs or whatever I need.
Do you plan on running like fighting gatherers? Like, are you going to take fighting skills on them?
Oh yeah, my blacksmith will have macing, mining. So mining gives macing a little bit more damage.
I don't see why you wouldn't, because
blacksmith does too.
It takes so long to level that stuff up to get 100 and lumberjacking or 100 in mining. That's a lot of work. And so you should leverage that into something combat if you can.
Well, one reason I decided to do it, I kind of ran around the map and I noticed, compared to the original map, which had a lot of spaces that didn't have any, let's call them tier 2 mobs, this map does. So you want to be able to
defend yourself
down at least,
Yeah, if you're running along and you got this asshole harassing you while you really want this ore spot you found, you're gonna have to stand your ground at some point. And then not to mention the PvP aspect, where at least if you can heal yourself and maybe hit him a couple times to interrupt him and get back to a town, it's probably worth it.
Yeah, I'd rather not be an easy target. If I go down, I'm not gonna encourage him to come back every day.
Okay, we've been at this a little while. Let's highlight some guilds maybe. I know we got a couple good role-playing guilds, a couple good PvP guilds. Maybe we could spotlight a couple of those. I'm not sure all of these are recruiting. While we have Fenix here, we can talk about some of the PvP guilds that are out there. We have your guild. Are you guys recruiting, Fenix?
Very selectively. In the past, we've had everything from moles trying to, oust our intel, to people that would come in and role play a bad character to fail us all in the middle of a boss at some point, like a Leroy Jenkins style, So yeah, we very selectively recruit. There are very few people, and then the process is very, once you get in, it's very, I don't want to say high pressure, but like if I become skeptic of what you're doing, it doesn't take much for me to be like, so yeah, I mean, we are to a certain degree, and I think that on launch, once a lot of the people that are in my guild right now are people that over the years I PK'd maybe once, maybe twice, maybe 3, 5 times, and they get sick of it, and they reach out to me, and I'm like, dude, it's okay, just join my guild. We won't have these problems. And yeah, that's how I met Wares. Funny story, actually. I'll tell a story about Wares real quick. When we were on Relpor, it was like, I want to say it wasn't even 2 weeks into launch, and smithing was this massive grind. So I'm in Discord earlier, and I hear people talk, and they're all chatting about how there's no GM blacksmith. And I'm like, oh, who gives a fuck, whatever. So I go out to the dungeons, and the Tamer dungeon that we had at the time, was called Saracen, and it was, all the things you would expect, dragons and drakes and shit like that. And I go in there, and I find this tamer in full Valorite GM plate armor. And I kill him, like, instantly. And I'm like, I'm picking up his loot, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, who the fuck did I just kill? Nobody knows about this guy. So I'm like, I go into Discord, and I'm like, guys, there's definitely a GM tamer. I'm just saying. And I don't know if we had another interaction or if it was right after that he joined the crew. I think his guild had kind of mostly fallen off at that point already. But I just thought that was one of those funny, cathartic stories from the past where where I killed a guy and it turned into something, that was nice. Because I'm not always a dickhead. Like, a lot of times if I kill somebody and I don't find, I find a couple apples, 6 bandages, a hatchet, and, I don't know, a box with a key, I'm like, oh, this poor bastard didn't deserve to die. And I'll be like, and then I'll res him, heal him up, and be like, sorry about that, dude, later. But not everybody's like that. And when on launch, when it comes to your gatherers, probably not going to be like that. Did I get sidetracked?
Yeah, maybe a little bit, but that's a good story. And that's how a lot of this stuff goes. We got like half of our guild in Darkfall that way. You're out killing somebody, and they're like, oh, I don't have anyone to join up. Can I join up with you guys? Even though you just killed them. I've had a lot of like side chats in EVE Online where I kill a guy and I spend an hour teaching him how to, not suck.
Yeah.
I'll probably have that here because I'm not.
It's a lot longer process in UO, I feel like, than an hour.
Yeah, I can believe that too. We have Akasha's guild. I've seen his post in Discord. I've seen it in the forums. They seem to not be as selective as what you're trying to do. So maybe you're going for a bit of a bigger guild. They're called Hero. So if you're looking for a PvP, I think he's advertising it as a kind of do everything guild, which is probably everyone in this game, because you're not going to be able to PvP without dungeoning and crafting and yeah,
right. I think that from what I gained from him, because there was some split that happened a little while ago between some of the bigger guilds. He, I think, had mentioned it to me or something, and I was like, oh, why don't you just come to Rat? Because I've played with Akasha in the past. We've talked a bunch. We both have things in common, so I was like, why don't you just come over here? And he talked it over with his wife, who also plays with him, and he was like, no, I think I'm going to do my own thing, which I was glad to hear, because sometimes I feel like my guild is maybe a little bit too big, and I don't know how active people are really going to be, or what time zones we're really going to affect, but I just know we have a lot of people, and that kind of worries me, because I don't like being that guy.
Yeah, it sounds like you like to fight from behind a little bit sometimes, and you get too zerg, you can make you unhappy.
Yeah, but sometimes you need call-ins too, so... this is never going to be a solo versus solo only scenario when you're in dungeons, when you're in factions. You're never going to be fighting somebody. Well, I'm not going to say never, but at least to start, there's not going to be a lot of people you're going to encounter that are going to be red in a dungeon alone. I mean, maybe me, maybe a select few others that are extra sneaky or extra persistent, but most people are going to roll out as PKs in groups just because it's easier. You got somebody there to heal you if you're getting fucked up. You got someone else there to rely on for a wall if you need it. Things like that. A lot of people feel safer rolling in groups, and it makes sense, but there's nothing you can really do to stop it without completely discouraging group PvP, which a lot of people find really fun, including me.
Yeah, and if you're rolling into PvEers, they're not ready to fight you back. They don't have the PvP build they need to. If they're not in the dungeon in a PvP build, they're in their PvE build.
But I think his guild started as kind of like wanted to be kind of like an RP anti-PK guild, but I don't know. It may have morphed into something else based on the recruits he's getting. I'm not really sure. I know he's not being very picky with the people he takes on, so. That would be a good one if you're new and you want to start somewhere and get some PvP knowledge. I know Akasha is pretty good at PvP.
Yeah, we had a question from Mug in chat. What do you think of the murder penalties in place? Will they deter any killings? I can give you my opinion real quick. It's not going to do shit.
That's a touchy subject.
It's not going to do shit. Money never means anything. You can say all you want about, oh, we've lowered the amount of gold you get in the server. People they play way more than you think, and they amass wealth way more than you think, way faster than you think. And it's
especially true for guilds.
It's not going to be a harsh enough punishment. I think we're going to be in a PK glory fest here really quick, really often. But they've also said they're willing to alter what they're going to do. So I guess we'll see how it goes in a couple of weeks. I'm skeptical, though. But I don't have a lot of UO experience, so I'm talking out of my ass.
Well, I have direct experience with this. Like, I think 2 systems very similar to this one in nature, where you basically pay to play as a PK. A lot of times what ends up happening is it functionally, once you die and you have to pay the penalty, you functionally have to take a timeout on that character, which I think is a good thing. I don't like here how you can reset the long term somehow. I don't feel like as though that should be possible, and I feel like you should pay for each one of them every time you do die. I personally would like to see the penalties higher in gold, but I'm also a PK, so I'm not going to rail on about it. I think that the current system in place will deter a lot of your low-end scummy PKs. Like, you're not gonna stop the ganking guilds with this kind of system, because they're gonna come in and do exactly what I was talking about earlier. Scout a scenario, come in with fucking 10 guys. Dunk your 5 people that are all PvE characters that have been working on this thing for God knows how long they take. I don't know. I haven't done one. And they're going to walk back out with all the loot, and it's going to be easy for them to afford the next time they die. But I think that the lower level guys that you have that are going to be either solo PKs or just shit PKs that come in and kill noobs and nothing else and are really basically harmless are going to get pushed out of the system, which I think is a good thing. Like I said, I would like to see the prices a little bit higher personally, just because it doesn't seem like much to me, and I know that in the past I've been able to afford way more.
That's more optimistic than I was thinking it would be.
I agree. Maybe not raise the prices immediately, but soon after, because it's not going to put a dent in a lot of people.
I think you can easily gauge it within a week or two of how griefy PKs are able to be at that price range. And you have to understand, too, there is a tipping point at some point. It's not just money doesn't matter, gold doesn't matter. When you rack up so many fucking kills and you finally die and it all just explodes on you, it becomes expensive. On Relpor, there was times I paid out 40, 50,000 gold after huge sprees just because that was how much it costed. And to me, that was a lot. Like, I was costing myself a lot when I took a hit like that. But in the same vein, every time I killed somebody that had a frickin' rare on them, that's 20k. Bam. If you're killing people that are high priority targets that have really expensive loot on them, it's going to pay for it probably.
So Nate, make sure you look like a hobo when you're out running around.
Right.
No, if it curbs the Gankfest trash type of PvP, I think that's job done. I'll take that kind of system. If it leaves in what you're talking about, where you're seeking something that's worth killing, then that sounds like it's just a part of the game. I'm just always skeptical when it's only money. I'd rather see some kind of I don't know, something that makes it worth not going red, or you leave people with a carrot on a stick rather than penalizing them.
I'm just going to say that I grew up in an age of stat loss, and I experienced that. And yeah, it sucked, but it was the price of being a fucking red. So if you don't want stat loss, don't go red.
Yeah, I guess that is one big thing on the server. There's no stat, or the stat loss thing.
It would turn a lot of people off, though.
Yeah, it's a delicate balance. If you ruin it for the guys that like PvP, they don't have fun and they don't play your game. But then at the same time, if they're out wreaking havoc on your server, then no one wants to play it either. It's probably not a win-win for anybody. I don't envy these guys trying to balance it properly. Okay, we went over all the PvP guilds. I don't know much about these role playing guilds, but some of these look really cool. I know the orc role players are always big, so they're here in force. The Boulder Fist Orc Clan. I think there's one more out there. I saw one called House Dane of Starfall. They seem really cool. And then these guys have been spamming Discord all the time. And the Imperium Prevelia. Sounds like they're going for a light RP, or they're trying to roleplay like Roman soldiers in Prevelia. I envy RPers. I'm not really one myself. I mean, I play D&D every Sunday. I don't really do it in MMOs. But one thing about a role player is they can always extract fun out of the worst situations and the worst games. Like Fallen Earth. That game's been dead for like 5 years, but it has a really big role-playing community, and those guys just endlessly have fun. So I kind of wish I was one, because then I think these MMOs would be a lot more entertaining. And I think UO, they add a lot of flavor to server, especially the orcs.
I've been in guilds with guys that do that. And me, it's not my style. Like, I'll kill you and I'll talk with you after. And I have a light RP element to me because I get the pirate thing going on, but I couldn't be that guy with like preset hotkeys to like talk shit as I'm walking in to kill you in an RP style. That's just not. It is entertaining though. I've seen it. Yeah.
Then you have some general guilds out there. Our guild we chose to join is Beard Brothers, led by Papa Carl. He's been streaming a lot of UO lately. There's the Exile Company, led by Click CLX. He hosted the AMA stream the other day. So those are probably two good options. I think they're both still recruiting. Beard Brothers definitely seem more PvE oriented, but I mean, just like anything else, we'll probably be doing lots of everything.
You guys are going to get forced into PvP probably a lot because you have such a big group.
Yeah, and I imagine lots of stream sniping. Yep.
Believe me, being on the end of that, it's definitely a thing.
And then recently, I think you sent me a link, Mindtrip. There's a couple trading guilds out there. The one I think at least is initially the most interesting is the Black Market Merchants Guild, and they're trying to foster a Discord community to help do some trading. I think we've covered all the guilds. Let's see what else we got on here. Okay, we can do predictions. What do you think the population will hit, Fenix?
What are we talking about, clients or active people?
Let's do it just active people, I guess.
Well, if you look at the Discord, there's a massive amount of people in there right now. I think, I haven't looked in a while, but I know it was up, I think over 1,600 or something. Not all of those people in Discord are active, obviously, so you got to kind of shave that number a little bit. But you also got to account there's going to be a certain amount of people that come find the server on the internet, don't ever log into the Discord because they give a shit less. They just want to play the game solo and check it out, and they're not going to be in the Discord. So I think given everything, if I was to take a stab at the jelly beans in the bowl, I would say probably like maybe 900 people that are going to play.
That seems low. But
it could be way more, right?
Well, but I guess if you have multiple counts on, that's going to look.
Well, yeah, if
number,
you think
it'll be 2,000, something like that.
If you think about 900 people actively playing on 3 accounts, that's 2,700 clients.
Yeah, so, that'll be definitely the biggest shard we've seen in a long ass time.
Yeah, without any boosting really either. These guys don't have that on their agenda to put I don't want to talk shit about any servers, but I played a certain UOR server where I tried it for a second because there was a bunch of my friends that were going there. So in the wake of something else, so I'm like, okay, yeah, whatever, I'll try it. I've played UOR before I could handle it. So we went, and I first logged in. I go through Oklo, and there's all these fucking people around, and I'm like, damn. There's a good amount of people here. Okay, we get some banksitters. That's good. Went out in the world, hardly ever seen anybody. Every time I come back to Oklo Bank, everybody's standing in the same fucking spot, and I'm like, something's not quite right here. Like, I don't know if it's just that many people AFKing at a bank on a shard they never play, but I would like to think not.
Yeah. Do you ever figure out what was going on, or?
I didn't really delve into it. I just left.
Yeah. That's the advantage of Outland and its map, I think, too. Half the size and drawing the population to hotspots, PvP hotspots especially.
Well, not only that either, but people are going to have to run out and physically explore the world in order to figure out their bearings because they haven't been here before. They don't know where they're going, really. I mean, there are certain things that help, like the Atlas, Ultimate Mapper looks really good to me at first glance. I just downloaded it the other day, but going through, it's very helpful, I could see, to somebody that's fairly new to the game because it'll show you all the aggro mobs and shit that drops good loot, what level it is, what its stats are. It's
a little
crazy.
It's a little out of date because I think Black Tea made that 3 or 4 months ago, but it's an awesome resource.
Yeah,
especially
I've found it. I've been running some dungeons and taking a look at it over the last couple days since I've downloaded it, and most of it seems pretty accurate.
Yeah, so I got booted from the server, but I don't think the server went down.
I crashed, but I think it was just because of what was going on in my town. Probably.
Yeah.
I am still in the test server, so it's still up for me.
I see a lot of people there.
Yeah, I think mine was probably more of a Steam issue, probably. Oh yeah, it's a shit show where I'm at.
My ISP is hit and miss. Some days it's really good, some days it's not. So, apologize for that. Okay, so where are we at now?
I think let's wrap up. Fenix, you got any final story you want to share with us, or anything cool you could?
Well, I was thinking about this earlier. There's a lot of things that were going through my head, but I think probably the most raw story that I could give is one from way back in my Chesapeake days. There was 2 moments. It was me and my best friend, like I said, that would play the game together. I remember getting up on 56K dial-up, and then having another phone in the hand, and that's how we Discorded back in the day. It was so rustic now that I look back at it, but it worked. We could at least communicate when we were doing shit without having to type. And so we farmed and farmed and farmed, and we worked as hard as we could. He got into dealing with real estate, and he made us a ton of money doing that, just flipping houses. And then one day we finally saved up enough for the house that he wanted, which was a villa. And we had it for a few months, and it was a great house, good location. I mean, nothing spectacular, but it was peaceful, and hardly anybody ever came around. That was all we really wanted back in the day. And then one day he got scammed out of it during a real estate deal. So
was he trying to sell it or
he was trying? Well, he was just trying to move up the chain because that's basically what he was doing at the time, and it was working until the scam. But anyway, so there went both of our life savings down the drain in one day because he did something stupid and he felt wicked, shitty, and guilty about it and all this shit. But I didn't really. I was like, whatever, dude. It's just a house. We'll get another one. It's not a big deal. But he took it real personal, and he started to sort of fall off a little bit after that. I feel like it really affected him. But I kept playing because I was addicted, and ended up saving enough so that I could get a. I wanted a PvP house at the time. I was getting into UOR PvP, and I wanted a PvP house outside of a main moon gate or some PvP hotspot. So I ended up finding this guy selling a small tower by the U gate, and it was, I think, about a screen from the U moon gate. So it was really close, and I like towers. So I go ahead, buy a tower, and I'm PvPing out of it for a few weeks, and it's fun. I'm house hiding against gank squads and shit like that, getting away, and killing the random person here and there every once in a while with a stupid parablow. And one day, same thing. I got a good offer on it, and zippity zappity, goodbye, fucking tower.
Oh.
And after that, I went into town. And I sat there and I put up a macro on, I think it was just some other random alt. and I put up a macro saying people suck in all caps for like an hour straight, and I was just standing there, and people were coming over and giving me shit, and I just kept spamming the macro and watching them like, fuck you guys, like, you guys fucking suck. I was so salty. And I guess the reason I wanted to tell these two stories over any other ones is don't ever take anybody in the UO universe as your friend or going to not take advantage of you, because at the end of the day, it very well could happen right under your nose. Even if it's a long con, I've seen it happen time and time again. So be very careful with who you trust. And when you go to do something secure, like sell a house deed on this shard, make sure you've got your fucking ducks in a row, because otherwise somebody's going to steal your fucking deed, fuck your whole day up, and then you're going to get fucking salty.
I think there's actually a system on this shard for selling your house that seems a little more secure than trying to...
I'm sure there is. I'm just talking to the people that are out here trying to sell a house deed. Like, maybe they got an extra house deed or something like that they don't need. I don't know how the system works itself. I'm just saying the moral of the story is don't trust other people you don't really, really, really know.
Yeah, that's probably a good point of advice to take. It doesn't matter, man. I think we'll have enough people on the shard. There's going to be suckers.
Oh, there's going to be dirtbags everywhere.
Yeah, there'll be plenty of dirtbags, probably more dirtbags than there are suckers, but there'll be suckers for sure. So
yeah.
Mindtrip, let's go ahead and wrap this thing up.
So thanks for everybody for tuning in. We'll try to get this up on iTunes, and I'm going to get a website up this weekend with links to the podcast in case you guys want to re-listen or tune in to the next one. But yeah, thanks for joining us, Fenix. It's been awesome to have someone with your experience on the show.
Yeah.
Cool hanging out.
I was glad I could say a few things and help you guys out. I hope everything that you're doing goes well. I think it's a great thing for the shard, and I think that obviously you've got some attention already. I think it only grows from here.
Yeah. Well, bear with me, guys. I am new to this, and we're going to work through these issues and try to bring you a better podcast. Nate, thanks for being here. I know you had to fend off some spousal aggro, which you accomplished successfully. So appreciate that.
Yeah, I think we're going to keep the live format. Listen to us live. You'll hear us set up. You'll hear us troubleshoot like we did earlier. And then, but then if you don't like the live thing, we'll have a nicely edited show, 2 or 3 days later that'll come up with, without any hiccups you heard probably during the live show.
Yeah, hopefully my crackling issues don't persist. I can try to do some things, but I'm not sure if it's going to help. In the near future, we're moving to high population area with better internet, so maybe in a couple months that might be the solution if it continues. But we'll edit these out and try to make them tolerable if you listen to them on the feeds or whatever.
All right, yeah, thanks guys. Appreciate everyone stopping in and listening and hanging out with us during the stress test. I think it was successful, and give us your ideas if you have any. We'll try to incorporate them into the show.
Yep. And one more thing, I would like to thank the developers for all the work they've done here. This is coming to us free content, so appreciate it. It's been awesome what you guys have worked on. Good job.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That's one thing people forget before they rail on someone is all these man hours bringing this Outland shard to us.
It's their child you're ribbing.
Yeah.
Lucius actually does get paid for doing this because he does it at his regular job. So besides him, they don't get paid.
I feel like some asshole on some of the shards going to find his employer and
dox him.
Yeah, and thanks, Fenix. Appreciate you coming on and spending an hour and a half with us of your time.
Yeah, I didn't expect it to be as long as it was, but it was a good time, and hopefully you guys got some good stories or something.
I think this will be a common theme. We all like this game, and when we bring people on, they'll have a lot to say. So, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, sorry if I interrupted a couple times.
Yeah, we'll see everyone Saturday for lunch.
All right,
cool. See you guys there.
Good luck. Don't die.